Okay guys, let's go ahead and do this. This is performance task for test number 2. I wanted to show this to you guys so that you guys can get prepared for the test tomorrow and the next day. But practice performance task for test 2. This is question number 1. The same scenario is going to be played out through all of the 5 questions. It says a container is filled with water. This container has a small hole. After 15 minutes, the amount of water in the container is 675 milliliters. After 45 minutes, the amount of water remaining is 225 milliliters. So what I have to, I'm looking at this, what I have to realize and understand is that we got a situation where, let's say that the minutes are here and the water level, the milliliters, are here, right? Well, we're going to start off with quite a bit of water, and this drain, this hole that's in the container is going to start letting water out. And so we have this linear situation, and it's going to be let out at the same time. It's all about linear, but it's going to be let out, and as time goes on, we're going to get to a point where we don't have any water left. Okay? So what this question is about, it's about looking at the information and trying to figure out what the slope is. All right? So when I read through it, I got to filter out everything that I need. And when I filter things out, I get to 15 minutes and 675 milliliters. Okay? The numbers are what I want to underline. So 45 minutes and 225 milliliters. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and, there's several ways of doing this, but I'm going to go ahead and write this in a table. I'm going to say X, which is going to equal the minutes, and Y, which is going to equal the milliliters, the amount of water that I have. So if I can create a table, I can set it up, and I'm going to realize that I have 2 points. So the 2 points that I have are 15, comma 675, and 45, comma 225. Okay? So to find out what my slope is, the slope is the relationship of the change in the y values over the change in the x values. Okay? So I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, all right, well, the change going from 675, right? I can just line it up right here, right? I look at it going from 675 to 225. I can just subtract it, okay? Subtract the ones column, I get 0, okay? Subtract the tens column, I get 5. Subtract the hundreds column, I get 4, right? So over here, I am going down by 450. Okay? So my change in the y values is negative 450. Now if I look at 15 and I go from 15 to 45, okay, if I just think about it as a clock, 15 minutes going all the way over to 45 minutes, what's the difference? It's 30 minutes. Okay? So on the top right here, remember it's the change in the y values over the change in the x values. All right? The triangle means change. So in place of change in y, I'm going to go ahead and write negative 450. And in place of the change in the x values, I'm going to write 30. Okay? All right, so m equals negative 450 over 30, but I don't leave things unsimplified like that. That's too messy. Okay, so I want to simplify it. So basically what I'm going to do is take off the zeros and divide 45 by 3. If I divide 45 by 3, I get 15. And it's going to be negative. Okay? So m is negative 15. Right? Now I look down here. This is what I would like you guys to work through this right here and then go in and practice it a little bit. Write everything down that I write down. Practice it and get yourself ready for the test tomorrow and the next day. But I'm going to say the slope is negative 15, which means the container is, and for choice B or choice 2 right here, it's either gaining, losing, filling up, or adding. If I have a negative slope, that means it's losing. Okay, it's got to be something that's negative. Well, gaining is not negative, filling up is not negative, adding is not negative. The only one that's negative is losing. Okay, so it's going to be losing, and then I'm going to get to choice 3. Choice 3 here is I have 4 things to choose from. 1, 15, 225, 450. Okay, how much, how many milliliters am I going to be losing? And when we talk about the amount of it, what are we talking about? What measurement are we talking about? Well, we're talking about milliliters and we're talking about minutes. Okay? So this question is asking me how many milliliters are we going to lose every minute. All right, so this right here, it's just 15. This is a positive form of negative 15. So it's 15, and we'll say milliliters of water per what? The time, which is minutes. Okay? And that's number 1. Okay, now let's move over and look at the same scenario for question number 2. Same scenario. It says the container. We still have the same points right here. So remember we were talking about point slope form, right? And so point slope form is when we know, like it says right here, right? When we know the point, a point, we've got to have a point, and we know the y-intercept. Not the y-intercept, sorry, the slope. When we know a point and when we know the slope. Okay, so m, which we found out in the last question, was negative 15. Okay, slope is m. M is slope. And that m is negative 15. Okay? Now remember that we have 2 points to choose from. Okay? So we have a point at 15, 675, or we could choose 45, 250. I'm just going to go ahead and choose 15, 675 because I look in there and I can see that we have a lot of 675s and 15s there. Okay? So point slope formula is y equals m, my slope, times the quantity, parentheses, x, minus x1 plus y1, right? Now realize that when I list an ordered pair, the x value comes first, the x coordinate comes first, and the y coordinate comes second. All right, so now I have all of the numbers that I need in order to plug them in to the formula up there so I can use it and I can see which one fits, which one works. So I'm going to place this right here. I'm going to place this right here, and I'm going to place this right here. Okay? So when I place this, I'm going to rewrite it, and I'm going to say y equals, instead of m, I'm going to write negative 15. Okay, and I'm going to write the parentheses. And I'm going to write x, because I have to have, when I'm creating this formula, all lines are going to have two variables. To set up the equation properly, I have to have two variables. I have to have a y variable and an x variable, okay? And then I got to just fill in the numbers where they're supposed to go. All right, so I say y equals negative 15 times the quantity x, and I'm going to say minus, okay, minus x1. Well, x1 right here is 15. So I'm going to say minus 15. Okay? And then what I'm going to add to that is the y1. And y1 right here is 675. Okay? So I can go up to the answer choices up top, and I look and I see y equals negative 15 times the quantity x minus 15 plus, outside of the parentheses, plus 675. So that's my answer, but it doesn't say that there's only one answer. So these other forms, C, D, and B, they are, C and D are written in slope-intercept form. Okay? So slope-intercept form, if you remember, is y equals mx plus b. So we've been working with that one quite a bit, and that's the most useful of the equations. So we got y equals mx plus b. When we got into 1.13, 1.13 taught us how to rearrange a formula so that we could put it into slope-intercept form. And how we do this now, this is not necessarily part of the problem. I already have the right answer, but I have to check to make sure the other answers are correct or are not correct. So I'm going to distribute. Okay? And at each step, I'm going to go vertically down, and at each step, I'm going to try to simplify it a little bit more than it was before. So I'm going to say negative 15x, and I'm going to say plus negative 15 times negative 15. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the 675 to it. Okay? All right, and the reason why I wrote that out there is because I wanted you to understand how I'm getting this number that I'm going to show you next. All right? So negative, I continue to write down the things that are not going to change right now. So negative 15x, and if I say negative 15 times negative 15, I multiply that out and I get 225. So I'm going to say plus 225. And I got to continue to write down that 675 because that hasn't changed either. Now I'm left with two actual numbers. These are constants. 225 plus 675 give me 900. So I'm going to write negative 15x plus 900. And that is my slope-intercept form. Okay, that's slope-intercept form of the equation that I had right up here. So this is point slope, okay, and this is slope-intercept. Now, go up and match and see if negative 15x plus 900, I got a negative 15x right here, but it's not a 900, so that one doesn't work. This one doesn't work right here, right? That would give me 600, when I distributed 675 through to the x, that would give me 675x, so that one doesn't work. 15x minus 675, that one doesn't work either. Okay, so my only answer is A. All right, now I want to remember y equals negative 15x plus 900. Okay, I'm going to remember that because I'm going to use it later on. Okay, I'm going to use it later on in the problems. Okay, all right. So moving on, question number 3. Same problem. This time it says, how many minutes does it take? Oops. How many minutes does it take for the water to reach 450 milliliters? All right. Now, I'm going to do this in a little bit different way. I could, once I have my formula, the easiest one to work with is y equals negative 15x plus 900. Okay? All right, and this right here, 450 represents what? Does it represent x or does it represent y? So remember, x was minutes, y was milliliters. Okay, so it looks like this one represents y. So I could say y equals 450. Okay, how many minutes does it take for the water to reach 450 milliliters? Okay, so I can solve this by plugging in 450 for y. Okay. As long as I have one variable, I can go ahead and solve for it, for the other one, or for that variable. Okay? So in order to do that, what I have to do is just use inverse operations and go from there. So I'm going to subtract 900 from both sides. Okay? And I'm going to get negative 15x equals, move this down up a little bit. Negative 15x equals negative 450. Now I'm going to divide by negative 15 to isolate the x. If I divide by negative 15 on the left or on the right, I have to do it on the left as well. So I get x equals 15 goes into 450 30 times. What does that mean? Well, it means 30 minutes. Okay? So it means 30 minutes. Now, here's the thing, though. Okay, here's another, and this is also another way of looking at this problem. So if I have x and y, and I can keep this in a table, it's visual. Remember, I have 15 and I have 675. Okay, and then I have 45 and 225. Okay, so if I plug in, if I put 30 right there, it fits right between 15 and 45, right? Well, what was the y value? The y value is 450. Okay? So if the y value is 450, well, hey, if I look at this, 30 is halfway between 15 and 45, right? So it's halfway. Is 450 halfway between 675 and 225? Well, what's the difference here? The difference between, if I subtract them out right here, that's 5, and this becomes a 4, and 2 is 225, right? So that right there is, 225 is, it's going down 225. Okay? And then what's the difference from 675 down to 450? Well, if I just look at the ones, I get a 5, right? 5 minus 0 is 5. 7 minus 5 is 2. 2 minus 4 is 2. Well, it's the same thing. Okay? So I subtracted 225, I subtracted 225. Well, guess what? It's halfway between. Okay? Is it reasonable? Is it a reasonable answer? Yes, it's definitely a reasonable answer. Right? Because why? Because it's halfway between the other two numbers. Okay? And so just to show that on the other side, give myself a little more room right here, but to show that on the other side over here, I'm just going to go from here to here is 15, and from here to here is 15. Okay? So it's halfway, right? The halfway means the same distance above as below. Okay? All right, on to the next problem. Okay, now we're on problem number 4. Almost done here. So, what will the water level be after 70 minutes? That's my question. Okay, so 70 minutes. So remember, x is minutes, y is milliliters. So when x equals 70, what's my water level going to be? Well, the thing is, I just created a formula for this that I can use for pretty much everything. So if I say y equals negative 15 x plus 900, it's asking me what will the water level be? What will y be? The water level is y. What will y be when x is 70? Okay? So all I got to do is just plug in 70 for x. So I say negative 15 times 70 plus 900. Okay? So I got to do the work on this. I'm going to simplify it. Each step it gets a little bit more, little bit simpler. 15 times 70 is negative 1,050. And I continue right down the 900. So when I subtract, I say 900 minus 1,050, or negative 1,050 plus 900, what I end up with is negative 150. Okay? Negative 150 what? Y equals negative 150. Well, Y is milliliters. Okay? So the question asked me, what will the water level be after 70 minutes? All right? So it'll be negative 150 milliliters. All right? So I say the water level will be negative 150 milliliters. Okay? Is this reasonable given the context and what you know about linear functions? Now, can I have a negative water level? I can have no water, or I can have positive water level, but I can't have a negative water level. All right? So in this case, it is not reasonable because I can't have a negative water level. All right, and that's the answer right there, right? So now we're on to our last problem. Okay, problem number five. Number five. So this one, it says, just the question again, the same stuff again, says there were blank milliliters of water. So what are we talking about? We're talking about Y. Okay, milliliters is Y. And this one says there are blank milliliters of water in the container at the start. Start means the y-intercept. Okay? Now, if we know from slope-intercept form, we keep going back to that same equation. We got negative 15x plus 900. This is m, that's my slope, and this is b, and that's my y-intercept. Okay, so I've already solved it. I've already solved that thing right there. So this one right here, it's 900. Okay, there were 900 milliliters of water in the container at the start. So another way of looking at that is saying, okay, the y-intercept is where x equals 0. So to prove it, I'm going to plug it in and make sure. So y equals negative 50, the same equation again. I'm going to plug in 0 for x. And then I want to figure out what y is. Okay, so negative 15 times 0 just gives me 0. Anything times 0 gives me 0. So what's left? Y equals 900. Okay, so 900 is my y-intercept. Okay? So now the next problem says it took blank minutes for the container to become empty. So remember I talked about this. There's my graph. Okay? When are we going to run out of water? Okay? Well, that's when the x-intercept is when y equals 0. Okay? So let me look at my formula again, and I'm going to plug in 0 for y. So I could say 0 equals negative 15 times x plus 900. All right, now I can solve for x. But if you think about this, though, if you start off, okay, if you start off with this right here is 900, okay, and every minute that goes by, you are deleting 15 milliliters from that 900 to find the number of minutes that are going to go by before you get to 0. All you got to do is divide by 15. Okay? You just divide 900 by 15. Now, I'm going to show you that algebraically right here. Minus 900. I'm going to do the inverse operations because I have this thing where negative 15x plus 900 is on the right side. If I want to solve for x, I want to get everything to the other side, to the opposite side of x. So in order to do that, I'm adding 900 to the x term. So in order to get rid of adding 900, I got to subtract. So I subtract, and those will cancel out. And now I'm getting closer. I now have negative 15x equals negative 900. And now I am multiplying x by negative 15. So in order to get rid of multiplying x by negative 15, I got to divide x by negative 15. So that cancels out, and I get x equals 900 divided by 15, which is 60. 60 what? 60 minutes. Okay? All right, so that's it. That's all of it. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to take that information, make sure that you've copied that down and written it down as we went through it, understood it, study it, get ready for the test for tomorrow. But before you do that, I'd like you, before the test tomorrow, review this right here and then go in and the answers are right here for you. Okay? So go in and submit your answers to get 100% on this test, on that quiz. All right? And that the quiz is called performance task practice test, or practice performance task, something like that. Okay?